working harder, sailing faster, anticipating better, then it's something I'm really looking forward to. And this is how I see the next America's Cup. Seriously challenging sailing in seriously cool boats. With real drama on the water and off the water. The best sailors and the fastest boats. Now, a question for you. Which of these boats do you think kids really want to go sailing? The monohull or the multi-hull? I guess the more exciting boat wins. I'm no longer a kid. I actually feel like an old man now, at 30 years of age. But I want to tell you why I'm relishing the next 3 years. For a start, there is a switch from monohulls to multi-hulls. When the call was made in the last America's Cup to go to multi-hulls, I remember the initial reaction was disappointment and frustration. And to be honest, I was a little surprised myself. But very quickly after I thought about it, it turned to excitement. I mean, what a fantastic opportunity to be exposed to a discipline of our sport that has always seemed so far out of reach. Personally, I always enjoy a challenge in going out of my own comfort zone. Plus, to do it while going 40 knots and knowing the margin of error is so small, I mean, what a bonus. And you know what? It can be done. Switching to multi-hulls is doable. You only have to look at the recent record of Rob Greenwell from Origin, Alinghi's helmsman Ed Baird, and our own sailing team of John Kostecki or Dirk de Ridder. If you're good enough, you're good enough. It's really that simple. And interestingly enough, you only have to look at the last few seasons in the Extreme 40 circuit and see that the guys that won the circuit were monohull sailors. I'm not saying it doesn't require hard work and application, because it does. But show me a sailor who's interested in learning new skills, expanding their experience, or rising to a new challenge, and I'll guarantee he or she is unafraid of change and will adapt. For me, though, the biggest change going to multi-hulls and extreme apparent wind sailing was learning how much to anticipate. In a monohull, you get used to just looking at the jib and things happening quite slowly. In a big, powerful multi-hull, capable of tripling the wind speed, your reactions and skills are accelerated. It's all about being ahead of the cycle. In a monohull, the telltales might lift a little, you might be a degree off targets, but the inertia means the speed soaks off very slowly, and it's barely noticeable. In a 120-foot multi-hull, you can be flying a hull 1 minute and dropping it into the water the next. And let me tell you, that doesn't impress the crew much. There's simply no hiding the fact that you're not doing as well as you should be sailing a multi-hull. You have to react before each wind change. If you don't react before the gust of wind hits, you're too late. It's a really fun skill to learn. Okay, I bet some of you here are already ahead of me thinking, all right, this guy's converted to multi-hulls. Okay, fine. But he still has the experience of the wing sail that few of his rivals have. And this will be a nice little edge to have going into the next America's Cup. Well, believe me when I say this, that this advantage is overrated. Wings have been around for decades. We've just been very slow to catch up. First, the wing sail speed comes from your design team. And wing shapes have been around for a very, very long time. Also, we would have won the America's Cup without the wing. The wing sail was a little bit faster than our soft sail package, but we would have got the job done with the soft sails if needed. The transition from soft sails to a wing sail rig is easier than you'd imagine. And as you know, the smaller of the new America's Cup classes, the AC45, will fast-track every team to this current state-of-the-art next season. So what does this tell us about the next America's Cup? Can monohull sailors switch to multi-hulls easily? Of course they can. The good guys always do. Now what I'm excited about for the next America's Cup is going to be match racing in multi-hulls. Earlier this year, we carried an intensive 4 days of testing and training in Valencia. In some of the exercises, we deliberately put our extreme footy catamarans into very tight, constrained spaces, such as a start box that was only 6 boat lengths wide and 6 lengths deep, or course boundaries that forced the boats to tack or jibe in quick succession. The racing was awesome. It brought you the close quarters racing you get in monohull racing, yet added the excitement and lead changing you get from multi-hulls. Will the racing be different from monohull racing to multi-hull racing? Of course it will be. And what I'm looking forward to the most is the downwind legs. This is because in a multi-hull you can pass so much more easily than in a monohull. And great racing needs overtaking and lead changing. In monohull match racing and past America's Cups, if you win the start or lead around the top mark, there is only a 10% chance of the boat behind passing. Now, does that really sound like good racing to you? Downwind in a multi, it will be much easier for the trailing boat, as it will always see if the leading boat has picked the right angle for jibes and the lay lines. The wrong angle in a multi-hull is very slow, and you pay a huge VMG loss for missing a lay line or a jibe by a small margin. In a monohull, you get away with this. And this robs the boat behind of capitalising on any mistake of the boat ahead. And ultimately, as we've seen, doesn't allow passing. No question about it. To have great racing, you must have passing opportunities. But there is one other big difference between a monohull and a multi-hull, and that's risk. Monohulls don't really look that exciting unless they're powered up or in a big seaway. Even then, the only real risk is that you're going to broach or maybe rip a sail. On a multi-hull, that risk comes a lot higher. Instead of a spin out or a broach or a broken sail, you can capsize and have a real chance of ending your campaign. And that is not a race-winning move. I think the smaller AC45s, which teams will race in the first season, will bring teams right to that hardcore race mentality that will translate straight into the AC72s when they're launched. Blazers and polo shirts belong to history. Today's fans will see athletes pushed to physical exhaustion. Another change I'm looking forward to is racecourse technology. Part of the plans for the 34 America's Cup is developing tracking technology with 2 centimetre accuracy. Now, if you put tracking units on the competing yachts, start line, course marks, there is no reason why we can't have an electronic course. Crews and spectators will be able to see the course on screen, much easier to understand. Technology will be the fan's friend. And let's face it, in today's world, it's all about the technology. For sure, the racing rules need a tune-up, and this is a project that's been taken on with the International Sailing Federation. It's another opportunity to simplify our sport. For me, the worst part of the racing rules is when protest hearings happen at the end of the day on land. In our sport, we often change the results of races after they have finished. That's got to be wrong. That certainly confuses the non-sailing spectator. The ultimate objective is this. I believe that sailors and fans should never have to come off the water and see the result change. You hardly ever see it in any other sport. I mean, have you ever been to a game of rugby, gone down to the stadium, seen a game of football, gone home that night, turned on the evening news and found out that they changed the score, reversed the result? Have you ever seen a match at Wimbledon and then found out later on the referee decided to change the call after reviewing a line call? Of course not, but it happens all the time in sailing. If there's one thing I hate seeing on a result sheet, it's the words provisional or subject to protest. I'm sorry, but it's just not good enough. Everything should be decided on the water. What goes on the water stays on the water. All right, I'll close with a new initiative about which I'm passionate, the Youth America's Cup. It's a fantastic development. Quite simply, there must be a pathway in place for our young sailors to reach the America's Cup. I know that I've been pretty fortunate with my own career, and it is with no other reason other than sheer good luck. It was through yacht club youth programs that I was involved and youth match racing that it led me to an award ceremony in Australia. I was picking up the Youth Match Racing Award, Youth Sailor of the Year Award actually, and Sid Fisher, a legend in Australian ocean racing, was picking up the Ocean Racing Sailor of the Year Award. Afterwards, I went up to him and said, look, I'd love to try this ocean racing. He simply replied, what are you doing this weekend? And that's where it really started. It actually led to Sid handing over his 2000 America's Cup campaign to a bunch of young kids, and which started the Young Australia campaign. It was a great thing for Sid to have done. Actually, for those of you who know Sid, you won't be surprised that part of his thinking was to make sure that he got his old 1995 boat to the 2000 Challenger Series trials so that he didn't forfeit his entry fee. But it was a generous gesture. Look around some of the America's Cup teams today, the Volvo teams, and you'll see these Young Australia guys represented well. Yet this sort of opportunity is just so rare today. Teams are created to win. Owners now go to the top guys. They want the best experience they can hire, and for good reason too.